Welcome back to Fixing Up in association with Amazon, the show where we restore cars that you can win. My name's Danny Hopkins and I'm here at the Practical Classics workshop where last time I bought an absolutely fantastic Mark II 8-valve Golf GTI, which Clive absolutely loved.
Where did he find it?
Then I did all the work and Clive just put his feet up. Let's go and see where we got to. So, mate, you've had a few days, haven't you, in here?
Yes, indeed I have. I'm very tired and very emotional, darling.
Tell me what you've been doing on the bodywork on the car.
Well, that's interestingly, I welded it.
Yeah.
And then I welded it.
And then?
And then I welded it some more.
Yeah.
But what that means is now we have a solid, non-rusty shell. So we are in a way better position than we ever were before.
Which means we're ready for paint. But before we take anything to a paint shop, we've got to bolt it all back together again. And actually, the sad truth is we've got to take some more apart before we can do that.
Yeah, more dismantling to do.
So what are we going to do today then? We've got some discs, some shocks, and the calipers are still on the car. What do you suggest we do first?
I think we should just take it all apart.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What, like the rest of it?
Yeah.
So basically what we've got to do then is we've got to strip down the car a corner at a time.
Yeah, that's logical.
All right then. You do the front corner, I'll do the back corner. Go! So here I am with a hammer. I bet you're wondering, why has Danny got a hammer? I'm going to tell you. I was happily at the back of the car, beating Clive, obviously, in the deconstruction race, when he hollered at me that he had a problem. What's the problem, Clive?
Well, these pistons and calipers are a bit seized, and they're even worse on the other side. Yeah. So what we need to do, I think, is take the caliper off, drop it down, and I'll get you to go and press the brake pedal, and we'll push the piston out so we can take them apart to rebuild them.
And we've got to do that on both of them. How are we going to do it on both?
Do both at once.
Good plan. Okay, let's get cracking. There you go. That is one stuck piston.
Well and truly. And incidentally, anyone worrying that we're letting the caliper hang on the hose, which is bad form normally, we are actually going to replace them because it's starting to crack up and it could be dangerous. So
we have a lovely new one to go in its place. Okay, Clive, give me a shout when you want me to depress the brake pedal.
Pump away.
I'm pumping.
It's coming out. Keep going, you're nearly there.
Jolly good. Anything happening?
Yeah, again. That's it, stop there.
So, washing off the calipers now in the parts washer. I'm not wearing any gloves. It's wrong, isn't it? No, it's not. This is an aqueous parts washer, so it's completely non-toxic. You can actually wash your hands in it if you want. So this is coming up to being clear. Also, you notice that it's on the rear caliper, it's a wind out mechanism. So you can actually wind the piston in and out on this one. Don't push it in and out, whereas the front caliper is a push fit. So I'm not going to lie, doing a caliper is not a pleasant job. It's really fiddly and it takes a long time and it's really boring. We eventually wound this piston out of the rear caliper and actually didn't look too bad. Probably would have gone again, to be honest. And then we had to fit the seal kit, which is a bit of a nightmare. Had to get Clive over. We had to get a special tool, didn't we, Clive? But eventually now we've got it running. We've got the seal in its little lip, which took about 15 minutes and some blue language to get going. And now we're just going to wind this piston in a bit further so you can see it going in. So it's lovely to see a new piston going in. If you see it getting bunched up, just reverse it a bit.
Patience is a virtue, Danny, isn't it?
It is. Just take it nice and steady.
Especially when you're dealing with old cars.
Yeah, there we go. It's popped in. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pop in our new nipple. Again, important to get this to sit right. This is what you're going to use when you bleed the brakes. And that's the rear caliper done. So now we're going to do the front calipers, recondition those. We are going to fit new flexi hoses all round. We're also going to fit new discs at the front. The rear ones will go again, they're virtually new. But before we do any of that, we have to sort out the suspension. The springs are all right, but we want to put new dampers on all the way around. So we've got some dampers. I might have the assistant is demonstrating. And these are going to go on around, because if you want to go around corners in a sports car, you want to do it with real security, and that's what a set of new dampers will give you. We've only really got to replace one of the shock absorbers because it's weeping, but if you've got a car like this, why not do them all at the same time? That way you get consistent handling, you get consistent suspension. You wouldn't want to do anything else, and if you've got the money, we recommend you do all four at the same time. So that's what we're going to do. First thing we have to do is to remove the old one though, which looks like it's been at the bottom of the sea for a while. I've been up top, I've removed the 3 17mm nuts that hold the top of the strut into the car, so you can see it's moving up and down. Just got to do the rear one now. So I'm just going to move in here. Come on, Danny, lefty loosey, righty tighty. So we put some loosening juice in to the bottom bolts. It's coming out nicely. It's probably finger tight now. That's remarkable. You think about what these shock absorbers, especially the bolts and the brakes, have to go through during their lives, sitting in all the road filth. It's no surprise that there's a bit of corrosion. There we go. Clive, could you come and hang on this trailing arm for me, please, darling? So what you need is a really heavy weight to hang on a trailing arm in order to give yourself enough room to pull this free. And there it is. Very unpleasant, nasty looking old shock and spring setup. We'll get this sorted. Thank you, Clive. Blimey. Well, look, I can't lie. This is why we do it. Look at that. I know it's only a bump stop, but it's something we didn't anticipate, we didn't see it, but look at the state of that. It's not just dirty, it is disintegrating in my fingers. And you think about it, if that's what's happening to a bump stop, then think about all the other rubber components around the car. It's not been replaced since it was new. This is why you go deep into a restoration, even with a car that's apparently okay on the surface, because there will be nasties like this lurking everywhere. Now, of course, we didn't anticipate it. We haven't got one, so I've been on Amazon. I've ordered another one up. That should be here later today. Right, well, after the horror stories we saw earlier with this horrific bump stop and these seriously tired rear shocks, Amazon have delivered for us some lovely new bump stops. Now I'm going to attempt to rebuild them, and I've got to get it in the right order. So watch me fail. Here we go. Okay, I think we start with this. So this is the top cradle and mount for the spring. You've got to get the spring seated correctly so that it stays in the right position. There you go, there's a nice big rubber top mount for that. There you go. Right, now, next we have to put on our, here we go. If this is the bush that goes underneath where the actual shock absorber strut assembly sits into the car, and inside it, it's got a little steel collar. That goes over there like that. Compress it slightly with your fingers, and then you get the nut on top there. A bit more, that pushes down a bit further. That's what sits underneath the exterior of the car. Knobbly bit upward facing on this bush. That gets mounted into the car. Coming down from above, you'll have this, which is the bush that goes on the inside of the car. That will have inside it a metal collar. That pops on there. Another metal collar goes inside it this way round. And then finally, a nut on top. And then there's a big copper coloured washer which sits on top of it all. Ready to go. So that's a reconditioned strut in. We're going to drop the car to the ground in a second with the wheel on so that the spring can be compressed into the tower, and then we can do up the nuts on the inside. All 4 struts are going to be replaced, so when you win this car, it'll handle like a dream. Hello and welcome to Kit Corner. Yes, the car isn't enough. You want to win the car? Go to amazon.co.uk/fixing-up and you might be in with a chance of winning it at the end of the series. But if you want to win something this episode, then get yourself along to practicalclassics.co.uk/fixing-up and you can win everything I'm about to talk about. Let's go to this end of Kit Corner first. Here we are. You can win these products from Bosch. Yes, your classic. The service kit, the entire service kit. If Bosch make it, you can win it. So you've got a battery, we've got filters, we've got spark plugs, we've got gloops, we've got wiper blades, absolutely everything for your classic. And don't worry, if you've got something really old and Bosch don't make it, we'll send it to you for your modern instead. How about that? Moving swiftly along, we've got Amazon Basics tools. All of the lovely stuff you see here, this beautiful Amazon Basics toolkit. Amazon Basics tool rolls, gloves, protective kit, screwdrivers, spanners, you name it. Amazon Basics tools could be yours. Moving along. Electricity, very important for starting cars. No-code boosters, they make the best. Look at this, No-code Boost HD. You can start a car with an 8-litre engine with this. It's absolutely awesome. If you want something a bit more compact, the smaller version is there. Plus, we've got the charger too, the trickle charger. Those 3 products could be yours in Kit Corner. And finally, last but not least, I'm wearing the hat. I'm wearing the t-shirt. Yes, it's Castrol products. You can win the gloops for your classic and your modern. So you can get 20W50, you can get GTX, Liquid Engineering, also the Magnatech products, a hat, a t-shirt, promise I'll wash it. And because we're doing the gearbox this episode, we're going to throw in some transmission oil as well. So if you want to stand a chance of winning any of it, all you have to do is this. Get yourself along to practicalclassics.co.uk/fixing-up and enter the competition there. You gotta be in it to win it. Things have got a little bit tense of late in the Practical Classics workshop, and there's a very good reason. We are in a bit of a tight spot.
Though not as tight as the one I'm in.
That's very true. We're in a tight spot because we sent the gearbox away and it hasn't come back yet. And until it comes back, we cannot do any more work on the engine. We can't refit the hoses, we can't refit the electrics, can't refit the radiator or the drive shafts. And with the rest of the car in bits as well, with the suspension being rebuilt and the brakes being rebuilt, we're feeling a bit tense. I've got a feeling that if this car throws us another curveball, we might not have it ready in time for what we want to do with it at the end of the series. Now, this is what restoration is like. Stuff happens, especially if you're doing it properly. And we are. And that's good news for you, because if you want to win it, you'll know you're getting something superb. Remember, if you want to win it, you got to be in it. And that means getting yourself over to amazon.co.uk/fixing-up. Or if you want to win Kit Corner, get yourself over to practicalclassics.co.uk/fixing-up. Now, there is a bit of bad news here. If you do end up winning the Golf, I'm afraid you won't get a free Clive with it.
No, my wife wouldn't like that.
It's not what I've heard. So last night we got a bit despondent because we were worried that the gearbox hadn't turned up and we were stuck for things to do. However, this morning the world has changed. Clive, I have something very exciting for you to see.
Should I brace myself, Danny?
You should brace yourself. It is under the big red reveal rag. Would you like me to expose it?
Please do.
Here we go. Look at that.
Wow, it's a thing of beauty.
It's a box of gears, all beautifully rebuilt, ready to go back into the car. It's a bit of a trial getting it out, wasn't it?
Yes, and I'm sure it's going to be even more fun getting it back in.
Yeah, we'll slip back in without any problems whatsoever. We've got a new clutch as well. We're going to fit that. And we've also got over here a brand new front engine mount because the engine was rocking back and forwards, wasn't it?
Yeah, it had its time in the sun, hadn't it?
It had its time in the sun, that's for sure. But anyway, hopefully, by the end of the day, we're going to have this on and we'll be building the engine up, and by the end of the episode, we'll have a car that's ready for an MOT. Fingers crossed. So that's the clutch plate on with its shim. Now we're going to torque up the bolts. So basically what we're doing now is Clive is torquing up the bolts on the pressure plate, and I'm on the other end of the engine on the crankshaft, just holding the crankshaft in place so that he can get enough pressure to apply the torque wrench. How's it going over there, Clive?
It's tough at the top, Danny.
Whoa! So we've broken out the really big bar now, because we're at 90 Newton meters and Clive is currently doing the quarter of a turn on each bolt. It's a young man's game, really.
Last one.
And the reason that these are done up so tight is because you don't want one of those bolts coming off mid-corner, do you?
No, that would be suboptimal.
Yes.
So then we fit this centre section, like so. That's it.
Okay, we're about halfway through fitting up the clutch now. Just put the circlip on the centre cover plate. Now we've got the friction plate and the flywheel to go on.
So we're going to put the friction plate inside the flywheel and making sure it's the right way round.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for us, it actually tells us which is the right way round.
They must have known we were coming. Clive.
Yeah, I think they saw us from a mile off.
Right, do you want me to hold it up and you do the bolts?
So that, if you can put that in position. We get one in top and bottom. Only about 500 to go, Danny.
It's all right, I've got all day.
Hopefully the director will speed this section up and make us look like motoring gods, Danny.
Which is exactly what we
We
are.
are, of course.
We couldn't find the workshop light, so we used a no-code charger instead. Actually, it's brighter than our workshop light, so another use for the no-co.
So now I'm just going to torque the main cover in place. What's the torque setting, Danny?
I think your torque flywheel bolts to 20 Newton meters. Do it sequentially as diagonally opposite pairs.
Oh, okay then. Don't get up, eh?
So Clive's just used a relatively large amount of persuasion to get the track rod end out of its joint, and I'm going to lift the hub off now and take it away for safekeeping so that we've got better access to get the gearbox in. Okay, so we've fitted the clutch and we've got rid of the drive shaft on this side to give us more access. Now the moment we've been waiting for.
Not.
No, we're going to fit the gearbox. Let's get cracking, come on. Ready, 1, 2, 3.
Okay,
Off we go.
ready to deploy my right leg.
Right, so we're moving up now on our transmission jack. Being used for lifting transmission for probably the first time in its life.
Yeah.
Right, let's just get this round. The skill here is getting it up into position and missing everything else. How are we doing? I think we're about the right height now.
Yeah, it's just the drive shaft on the back. It's the output flange on the back.
The flange on this side is snagging on the flywheel. We've got to push it back into the car a bit if possible.
That's it. Right, now go in if you can.
Ow, that really hurt. But we might be on the...
Yeah, I think the sacrifice was worth it. Well, we're so close to having the gearbox in, it's just a fraction away. So what I'm going to do is going to get a bell housing bolt and just...
Oh. I've actually just leant on and it's just gone in. It's just slipped in.
Oh, and he's done it.
Yeah. Sorry, Clive.
So I
Stole your thunder a bit there.
It's fine by me. Just don't let go of it.
Do you know what? That's actually so much easier than when we got it out.
Yeah, that's like a world first.
Okay, so now it's in. Way easier than when we took it out. We got away with it, I think. Maybe removing the drive shaft from this side was what we should have done in the first place, possibly, I don't know. And what we're doing now is we're getting a couple of bolts in so we can remove the transmission stand.
Yeah.
And then we're going to start bolting the thing back together, aren't we?
Yeah. Let's go.
Nice and shiny too, which means it works better.
Of course. Well, I thought things were going too well, and now they've come to a crashing halt. Because when we were cleaning up the gearbox bracket before we refitted it, we found a huge crack in it, which is potentially very dangerous. And the crack is even repeated on the other side. So we're going to have to repair that before we refit it. And I'll have to break out the welder for that. Well, believe it or not, this is the offending article from earlier, and I've welded it, ground it flat, and given it a lovely coat of silver paint to make it look a bit more sexy.
Look at that.
And it does, doesn't it?
It looks lovely.
What have you been up to, Danny?
Well, I've been spraying the starter mode, because we all know that by giving something a coat of paint, it makes it extra restored. So now we're going to put these articles onto the engine and gearbox. We're going to get the front mount on, the new front mount we've got, and hopefully by the end of today, we'll have everything fitted up, ready for a start-up. Fingers crossed.
This bit first.
Okay. Right, I've gotten this morning and I've remembered something that I've forgotten, which is to order coolant hoses for the car. Coolant hoses on it will go again, but they're not good enough. We want to get some new ones. I'm going to go on Amazon to find them, and I'm going to use a really cool service that they've got called Part Finder. It's pretty simple. I've gone on amazon.co.uk. I've put in Mark II Golf GTI, hit go, and it's prompted me to add a vehicle to my garage, okay? And so I'm going to do that, and I'll do that by popping in the registration number of the car we're restoring. It comes up exactly right, Mark II Golf GTI 8 valve, yep, that's correct. And now I'm going to go coolant hoses, Mark II Golf GTI. I hit filter with my car, and boom, there you go, exactly the right hoses that I need. It's a brilliant way of ensuring that what you get delivered is actually going to fit your car. So it's just another nifty little service that you get when you order parts on Amazon. Right, so we've reached the stage now, we're building the engine back up, putting the ancillaries back on, we've got the gearbox in, everything's going well, we've got the engine mount sorted and on the car. But what we're focusing on right now is the new water pump. Now, the old water pump, we think, was the original one, wasn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah, and the bolts coming out of that, it took a long time and a lot of persuasion, and we were really worried we're going to snap. So what came out of the old one?
Well, this horrible manky old bolt, and the thread on it was really corroded. I've cleaned it up a bit, but it's still, I don't want to reuse it. So I've got some nice clean new bolts to put in.
You can actually see here, Clive, the reason why it was so wedged in is because the corrosion has caused the actual bolt itself to swell.
Yeah, it's probably why it was so tight.
Yeah, tough.
But anyway, so that we have an easy job putting the new bolts in, I've also tapped out the holes, cleaned out the threads in the engine block itself. So reassembly should be a breeze. And with the new bolts, I'm going to lubricate those with some copper grease so they won't seize in the future.
A nice shiny water pump here, very lovely.
Thing of beauty.
It's gorgeous. So this is going to go on now. Do you want to get the copper grease and start lubing it up?
Yes. So I've just got to fit the new O-ring gasket in there like so, and then we're ready to fit the pump.
I'm currently replacing the spark plugs. I've done 3 of them so far. I'm on the last one. I'm just wondering whether the last one's going to show me the same thing as the other 3 have shown me, and I'll show you what I mean by that in just a second. We're using Bosch examples. Bosch, only the best. Here we go. Let's see if we can get this out in one go. Now, I know everybody does this, and I know you've seen it 1,000 times, but it's really important to check your spark plugs when you take them out. It's a fantastic diagnostic tool. You can tell an awful lot from the condition of the electrodes at the end of a spark plug. Let's see if this one's the same as the others. It is. Yes, it is. So it's wet and it's sooty, and that says to me that the engine is, or the injection system is over fueling. What we've got here is soot and fuel. That's not oil. Anyway, it shouldn't look like that. It should look a kind of biscuity colour, and it should be dry. So I'm going to replace this spark plug with the Bosch example, but I'm also going to investigate very carefully how this car is fueling. I do know that the previous owner started the car up regularly and just ran it on his drive, didn't take it for long runs, and that might be why all the spark plugs are sooty. If they look black and they're sooty like this, then it's a sign of over fueling. And it makes sense. If he was just doing a short journey up and down his driveway, he'd have been running it on the choke all the time, and that's why they look like this. So now I'm just going to take the final Bosch plug out of its packet, give it a little bit of, just a tiny bit of copper grease, not too much. I'll just drop it in like this, and remember, when you put a plug in, a bit like starting a wheel nut off, always do it with your fingers first. Don't blast away with a wrench straight away. Make sure you've got it in the thread properly, and this one is, and then you can get your wrench on it. You do not want to cross thread a plug hole, because it's a whole world of pain. Nice and tight there. Yeah, lovely. Okay. We'll put the final lead on. So here's the near side drive shaft. I'm about to pop it onto its ball joint just here. Let me just get that in. We've pre-greased it with graphite grease, and Clive's got the bolts to put in. So I'm going to help by lifting up. This is really exciting, because once we've done this with the gearbox in, mounted properly, the engine mounted properly, the drivetrain is pretty much complete, and that means we can focus on the suspension and the brakes, and then we're pretty close to having a car which can drive at least. Finish the engine will run, who knows, this time tomorrow we could be driving a car. I've always wanted to be a transmission stand, and now this is my
found your true station in life.
It's my big moment, Clive.
Yeah. Shall I make a suggestion?
No.
We save your shoulder, because you're not tall enough.
I'm not tall enough, am I?
If we get the stand,
let's get the actual transmission stand.
Lift it up with that, and we might get somewhere close.
What, the thing that we're meant to lift it up with, rather than my body. Right, so we've angled the suspension arm up so that the drive shaft is pretty much flat onto the flange that comes out of the gearbox. Clive's just going to marry up the holes. Right, I'm under the back of the car now. I'm going to replace the Cinderella of the filters, the fuel filter, the one that everybody forgets. This one has been very fighty this morning. I've wrestled with the bolt that holds it on, and in the end snapped it. That means this filter has not been off the car for a long time. I expect it to be full of silt. Got the new item here from Bosch, really important to make sure that you use a reputable make. And once this is off, I'm going to replace it with the new item, of course, having clamped either side to make sure that the fuel from the tank doesn't run all over my face. Wearing the PPE, important for this particular job, because you might get splashed. I've doused it with penetrating fluid, so I'm going to get the Jubilee clips off either side now and then replace the filter. So here's the old filter. I've just taken it off, and it's got a little arrow on it, and that is the direction of flow. Okay, so make sure that the new filter goes on in exactly the same orientation. There's an arrow on the new one as well. That means that the more filthy fuel, the fuel that's going to be carrying the debris, is going to be coming in at the back end of this. Let's have a look and see if there's anything falls out of it that shows you what this filter has been stopping all these years. Okay, so we're just going to take it to this bit of white tissue paper so you can see, and I'm going to remove my finger from the end. Look at that. Black filth. That is not what you want going into your engine. So it's well worth replacing this. It's been doing its job for a long time, but by now I'd imagine it's pretty ineffectual. Time to get a new one on. There's the new arrow and the new filter. Right, all I need to find is a new nut and bolt to make sure the bracket is nice and secure, and that's it. Job done. So we rounded off a nut on one of the brake pipes at the back end of the car, which means we have to make a new pipe, don't we, Clive? What are you going to do?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we're going to make a new one.
Excellent. Which is not a bad thing, because I happen to know that Clive is a brake pipe ninja. Okay, now we're going to put the front discs and calipers and pads in with a new flexi hose. Clive, just take everybody through what we've got here on this little table here.
Well, we've got a smattering of tools there, Danny. We've got a reconditioned caliper and a new flexi pipe. We've got a lovely drilled disc and 2 specially prepared brake pads.
Happy days. Shall we get to it?
Why not?
Okay, disc on first then.
Yes, please.
And you've got a little securing screw to put in there, locating screw. Right then, Clive, what's next?
Well, next we need to clean the shipping protectant off the discs. We don't want that contaminating the pads.
Blue roll here then.
So we do that with some brake cleaner.
Right, what next?
The pads.
Pads, okay.
So if we pop those in.
You've got to take care, haven't you, not to get any of the grease on the face of the disc. Okay, Clive, what's next?
These anti-rattle shims for the pads, Danny. So,
and what do they do?
they stop the pads rattling.
It's amazing. Hence the name.
You wouldn't believe it, would you?
Right then, Clive, what's next?
The caliper.
Oh. Let's pop it up here then. We've got some caliper bolts for it around the back. They're already in, aren't they?
Yep.
Okay, so you go around the back, I'll stick around the front. Nice. Okay.
That's the bottom one lined up.
Trying to locate the caliper bolts at the moment. It's quite difficult. Clive's got the bottom one in. I think I've just got the thread on the top one. I have. So that means the caliper is on. And now Clive will do the honours with a ratchet. I love the way you do that, Clive.
Yeah, anybody would think I've done it before. Next, in this packed program, the flexi hose.
Lovely.
Which we've put it up through there. Noting the line on the side, because we need to keep it nice and straight.
That's why it's there, folks. That white line, make sure it's not twisted.
There you go.
And that is the brake overhaul complete. The brakes are done.
Well, except the bleeding, Danny.
Oh, yeah, well, we're going to bleed them, obviously. But after that, we're good to go. Or rather, stop. Right, so one of the many moments of truth we're going to have is about to occur, which is that we're just going to test start the engine just for 5-10 seconds to make sure that it turns over, that it runs, all the things we've done to it aren't causing it to explode in any way. How hopeful are you, Clive?
About 50%.
50%. I'll take those odds.
That's good for me.
Yeah, right, let's go for it. Right, here we go. I don't think the starter motor is connected.
No.
Starter motor wasn't connected.
Well, I think the firing wire is on the wrong pin. 1 second. Yeah. Get on there. Yeah, try that. Hooray!
Yes! Part 1 complete. So we've reached the end of a very long day, but
I've certainly reached the end.
You've reached the end of your tether, haven't you?
Yes,
Clive?
absolutely.
But we have finished the car. It is ready to drive. The suspension is done, the brakes are done, the engine is finished and back together again, and we know it runs. So the only thing left to do now is just to take it for a little run up the yard to see if the clutch is adjusted correctly and make sure the gearbox works okay, and then we can move on to the delights of the interior and eventually getting it painted. So fingers crossed that the gearbox is all right.
Because if it's not, You're going to see a grown man cry.
I'll be here all night. You can go home this time.
All right.
Right, let's get it down off the ramp. Right then, so here we are. We know it runs. I'm going to start the engine. That's the fuel pump. Out of gear. Try again.
Go for it.
Okay.
Hooray! Well, there's a good start.
Third time, but that's okay. Let's get the petrol through. All right, let's see if we've got a clutch. We do have a pedal. It's a little bit further down than I'd like. But we're in first gear. We have selected a cog, Mr. Jefferson.
Hooray! Let's see if we have forward motion.
We are moving under our own steam.
Amazing.
That's the exhaust.
Yes,
scratching
which
on
is
the
hanging
ground.
off.
First gear. Here we go. Try second, shall we?
Yeah. Ah, silence.
Amazing.
Yeah, lovely. No crunchiness.
Brilliant. So the gearbox is good. I try not to knock our neighbours over. Give it a spin round. It's got some grunt, and it's also got some
stops.
brakes.
Hooray!
The suspension feels pretty good actually, Clive, doesn't it?
Yeah, even on this yard.
Yeah, I know. Got some serious potholes here.
In fact, the more it runs, the happier it sounds.
Yeah.
I think it's been asleep for so long.
I know. Well, for a first run, that wasn't unsuccessful. Let's call it that. I think Clive should have a go, see what he thinks.
Oh yes, that definitely those pumps definitely feels a lot better.
I'm really enjoying the sound of the engine not exploding.
Yeah,
Because there's always a thought when you start something up, where you've been working on it in a kind of deep way.
always a good thing, that.
Yeah. That is the end of this episode. This car is now a really viable running driving vehicle. If you want to win it, you have to go to amazon.co.uk/fixingup and enter our prize draw there. We're going to put the car away and go home and have a nice cup of tea, aren't we, Clive?
Can I win it?
No, you know what's gone into it.
Next time, we take our Golf by the scruff of the neck and get it back into working order.